and certainly game environments are at least as good, if not superior, as a direct instruction when you only look at the very narrow spectrum of what you consider as learning. If we look at a broad spectrum, then that's much easier to show that these environments actually facilitate a number of outcomes that go beyond just factual knowledge. But that means you need to have measures in place to actually study that and show that, and that's one of the goals for the Institute as well, to develop those measures and methodologies to actually get at these questions. So research questions that we're asking is, what are those design factors? How do they interact? Not just isolate, but also how do they interact? And the integration of the games into the curriculum and the effect of learner characteristics. All of those in a kind of broad sweep of the field are questions of interest to us. You saw this slide already. I just want to point it out again. We're currently in the phase where we're doing the observation of the gameplay. We have the interviews with experts that Catherine is going to talk about in just a moment. We're doing review of research on games, all to look at those features of effective educational games. What are those elements that make those games effective? And right now, it's not even just educational games, but we're looking at games that kids play and that they find interesting. What makes those games fun? What makes them engaging? And can those factors be connected to educational theory that we already know, bases of learning that we're already aware of, so that we can then translate them into factors for educational designs. And then we'll work with Ken's group to build those prototypes, and they will be instrumented by the solution that Pragmatic Solutions provides, and then we will get all the wonderful data out of that that will help us get a very deep understanding of learning in this context. And then we will formulate those game design principles in the end. So those are the four phases. The wide-ranging exploration is in progress right now, and we're in some cases already doing focused exploration. The difference between the two is wide-ranging says, let's just look at any game that kids really like and tell us they like in middle schools. And focused exploration would be, oh, we think we found something here. Let's compare this game to one that doesn't have the same factor that we think might be responsible. So if I find in World of Goo that this kind of gooey feeling and cartoonish feeling is something that really works, then we might take a similar game that has it or another game that doesn't have it and see if we can narrow in on some of those questions. So that's what the focused exploration will do. And here, very briefly, we're looking at existing games and looking at those patterns by observation, user log analysis, interviews, learner characteristics, and developing of kind of hotspots and summaries of what makes specific games very interesting and fun for kids and engaging. We've observed kids trying to solve problems in particular games. Professor Layton is my favorite example. There are some puzzles in Professor Layton and the Curious Village that if I just handed you the puzzle, you would probably give it back to me after a couple of minutes and would say, this is too hard and I actually don't care. But it's embedded into a narrative that makes you want to solve this puzzle to move on. And so one of the possible, or what I would consider a candidate for a design principle is a strong narrative will serve as an extrinsic motivation when the intrinsic motivation of the content itself might not be as high. So there are some puzzles that those kids spend almost an hour trying to solve, and they did succeed in the end. But when have you last seen that in the classroom where you give them a math or a physics problem, they spend an hour failing several times in coming to a solution?